On with my read aloud series from Indian Economic Development textbook for class 11. I'm with chapter number 4, Poverty, Unit 3, Current Challenges Facing Indian Economy. Finished with causes and now policies and programs towards poverty alleviation. The Indian Constitution and 5-year plan state social justice as the primary objective of the developmental strategies of the government. To quote the first 5-year plan, that is 1951 to 56, the urge to bring economic and social change under present conditions comes from the fact of poverty and inequalities in income, wealth, and opportunity. The second 5-year plan from 1956 to 1961 also pointed out that the benefits of economic development must accrue more and more to the relatively less privileged classes of society. One can find in all policy documents emphasis being laid on poverty alleviation and that various strategies need to be adopted by the government for the same. The government's approach to poverty reduction was of three dimensions. The first one is growth-oriented approach. It is based on the expectation that the effects of economic growth, rapid increase in GDP, gross domestic product, and per capita income would spread to the sections of society and will trickle down to the poor sections also. This was the major focus of planning in the 1950s and early 1960s. It was felt that rapid industrial development and transformation of agriculture through green revolution in select regions would benefit the underdeveloped regions and more backward sections of the community. You must have read in chapters 2 and 3 that the overall growth of agriculture and industry have not been impressive. Population growth has resulted in very low growth in per capita incomes. The gap between the poor and rich has actually widened. The Green Revolution exacerbated the disparities regionally and between large and small farmers. There was unwillingness and inability to redistribute land. Economists state that the benefits of economic growth have not trickled down to the poor. While looking for alternatives to specifically address the poor, policymakers started thinking that incomes and employment for the poor could be raised through the creation of additional assets and by means of work generation. This could be achieved through specific poverty alleviation programs. This second approach has been initiated from the third 5-year plan, 1961 to 66, and progressively enlarged since then. One of the noted programs initiated in the 1970s was Food for Work. Most poverty alleviation programs implemented are based on the perspective of the 5-year plans. Expanding self-employment programs and wage employment programs are being considered as the major ways of addressing poverty. The major ways of addressing examples of self-employment programs are Rural Employment Generation Programs, REGP, Prime Minister's Rozgar Yojana, PMRY, and Swarna Jayanti Shehri Rozgar Yojana, SJSRY. The first program aims at creating self-employment opportunities in urban areas. The Khadi and Village Industries Commission is implementing it. Under this program, one can get financial assistance in the form of bank loans to set up small industries. The educated unemployed from low-income families in rural and urban areas can get financial help to set up any kind of enterprise that generates employment under PMRY, SJ, SRY mainly aims at creating employment opportunities, both self-employment and wage employment in urban areas. Earlier, under self-employment programs, financial assistance was given to families or individuals. Since the 1990s, this approach has been changed. Now, those who wish to benefit from these programs are encouraged to form self-help groups. Initially, they were encouraged to save some money and lend among themselves as small loans. Later, through banks, the government provides partial financial assistance to the self-help groups, which then decide whom the loan is to be given to for self-employment activities. Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarozgar Yojana (SGSY) is one such program. This has now been restructured as National Rural Livelihoods Mission (NRLM). The government has a variety of programs to generate wage employment for the poor, unskilled people living in rural areas. Some of them are National Food for Work Program (NFWP) and Sampurna Gramin Rozgar Yojana (SGRY). In August 2005, the Parliament passed a new act to provide guaranteed wage employment to every household whose adult volunteer is to do unskilled manual work for a minimum of 100 days in a year. This act is known as Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. Under this act, all those among the poor who are ready to work at the minimum wage can report for work in areas where this program is implemented. In 2012-13, 4.4 crore households have been provided employment. The third approach to addressing poverty is to provide minimum basic amenities to the people. India was among the pioneers in the world to envisage that through public expenditure on social consumption needs, provision of food grains at subsidized rates, education, health, water supply and sanitation, people's living standard. So, as I read earlier, the third approach to addressing poverty is to provide minimum basic amenities to the people. India was among the pioneers in the world to envisage that through public expenditure on social consumption needs like provision of food grains at subsidized rates, education, health, water supply and sanitation, people's living standards could be improved. Programs under this approach are expected to supplement the consumption of the poor, create employment opportunities and bring about improvement in health and education. One can trace this approach from the fifth five-year plan. Even with expanded employment opportunities, the poor will not be able to buy for themselves all the essential goods and services. They have to be supplemented up to at least certain minimum standards by social consumption and investment in the form of essential food grains, education, health, nutrition, drinking water, housing, communications, and electricity. Three major programs that aim at improving the food and nutritional standards of the poor are Public Distribution System, Integrated Child Development Scheme, and Midday Meal Scheme. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Gram Udaya Yojana, Valmiki Ambedkar Awas Yojana are also attempts in the same direction. It may be essential to briefly state that India has achieved satisfactory progress in many aspects. The government also has a variety of other social security programs to help a few specific groups. National Social Assistance Program is one such program initiated by the central government. Under this program, elderly people who do not have anyone to take care of them are given pension to sustain themselves. Poor women who are destitute and widows are also covered under the scheme. The government has also introduced a few schemes to provide health insurance to poor people. And we finish off with the programs, poverty alleviation programs. And the next, I will read out a critical assessment of these poverty alleviation programs.